Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Panik Peak. Let me know where you are listening from in the world by leaving a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the episode. Now, let's relax and let's begin. Story 1. The babysitting job on Willow Lane. My name is Ryan. When I was 19, I took a babysitting job that paid way too much. At the time, I didn't question it. I needed money. I was in community college. My car barely ran, and I'd do almost anything for a quick $200. The ad was posted on a neighborhood app. Need sitter for one child, Friday night, 6 p.m. to midnight. Easy job. Child usually asleep by 8. The address was in one of the nicest parts of town. Big houses, private streets, old money type neighborhood. I messaged the number and got an immediate reply, a woman named Claire. She sounded normal enough, polite, short answers. She said their regular sitter canceled last minute. She asked if I had experience. I lied and said yes. I had watched my little cousin twice. That was it. She told me to arrive at 6 sharp. Then sent one final message. Please do not go into the attic room. I laughed when I read it. Thought it was a joke. Every creepy story starts like that. I wish I'd listened. Willow Lane was darker than the rest of the neighborhood. Tall trees blocked most of the streetlights. Their house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac. Huge white colonial-style place. 3 stories, perfect lawn. No cars in the driveway except a black SUV. The front door opened before I even knocked. Claire stood there smiling, mid-30s maybe, well-dressed, tired eyes. Behind her was a tall man in a suit, her husband, David. He barely acknowledged me. They moved quickly, like they were already late. Claire walked me through the house, while speaking fast. Kitchen here, bathroom there. TV remote on the table, snacks in pantry, emergency numbers on fridge. Their son was named Oliver, 7 years old, already upstairs in bed. Then she stopped at the staircase landing and looked directly at me. If Oliver says anyone is in the attic room, ignore him. I thought she was joking again. She wasn't smiling anymore. He has an active imagination. David grabbed his keys. We'll be back before midnight. Then they left. Just like that. No paperwork, no questions, no hesitation about leaving their kid with a stranger. That should have been another warning. The house was quiet after they left. Too quiet. The kind of silence where every small sound feels louder. I turned on the TV in the living room and tried to relax. At 6:20, I heard footsteps upstairs. Small, quick footsteps. Oliver stood at the top of the stairs staring down at me. He was skinny and pale with messy hair, holding a blanket. You're not the usual one, he said. I told him no. He slowly came downstairs. He seemed calm, too calm for a kid meeting a stranger. He sat on the couch beside me. For 10 minutes, he said nothing. Then he asked, "Did they tell you about the attic room?" I said they told me not to go in there. He nodded. That means he's awake. I laughed nervously and asked who. Oliver looked toward the ceiling. The man who lives inside the walls. Kids say weird things. I knew that much. So I changed the subject and asked if he wanted snacks. He said no. Then quietly added, he only comes out when I'm alone. I told him it was almost bedtime. He agreed immediately. No arguing, no complaints. That was strange too. I walked him upstairs. His room was across from another door at the end of the hall. Smaller door. Painted the same color as the wall. No knob on the outside. Just a keyhole. The attic room. Oliver pointed at it before entering his bedroom. He scratches when he's hungry. Then he closed his door. I stood there for a moment trying to process what I'd just heard. Then I went back downstairs. At 7:15, I heard scratching above me, slow, dragging sounds. From the ceiling. I muted the TV. It stopped. Then 3 knocks came from directly overhead. I called up, asking if Oliver was awake. No answer. I went upstairs and checked his room. He was in bed, pretending to sleep. I asked if he'd been running around. He shook his head without opening his eyes, then whispered, "He knows you're here now." I went back downstairs, annoyed, more than scared. Kids can be creepy on purpose. I figured he was messing with me. At 8 p.m., my phone lost service. 1 bar to none. Wi-Fi required a password I didn't have. Great. I tried not to care. At 8:30, the scratching started again, longer this time. Then something heavy moved above the living room ceiling, like furniture dragging across wood. That was impossible. The attic should have been over the second-floor hallway. Not directly above me. I called Claire. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Same thing. David too. Nothing. Then, the landline on the kitchen wall rang. I jumped so hard I nearly dropped my phone. I answered. No one spoke. Just breathing. Slow, wet breathing. Then a child's voice whispered, "Don't let him out." The line disconnected. I ran upstairs to Oliver's room. He was sitting upright in bed now, wide awake. "You answered it," he said. I asked if he made that call somehow. He ignored the question. "You have to keep the key with you." I asked what key. He pointed under his pillow. There was an old brass key underneath, cold and heavy. Before I could ask more, a loud bang shook the hallway, the attic door, another bang. Then the doorknob on Oliver's bedroom door began rattling violently. Something from the other side was trying to get in. I shoved the dresser against the door. Oliver didn't react. He just stared at me. "You're supposed to lock it before dark," he said. The rattling stopped instantly. Then came footsteps. Slow footsteps in the hallway, not child footsteps, heavy, measured. They moved from our door to the attic room. Then silence. I asked Oliver what was happening. He finally looked scared. They forgot. Forgot what? To feed him. I was done. I grabbed Oliver's hand and tried the window, painted shut. I looked for another exit, nothing big enough. Then Claire called my cell. Service had suddenly returned. I answered immediately. I yelled that something was in the house. She spoke in a whisper. "Ryan, listen carefully. Is Oliver with you?" I said yes. There was a long pause. Then she started crying. "Oliver died 2 years ago." The bedroom lights went out. My phone dropped from my hand. In the dark beside me, the child's voice changed. Much deeper now. He always tells them that part too early. Something grabbed my wrist. I kicked backward and hit the door. The dresser slid aside like it weighed nothing. Moonlight from the window lit the room for 1 second. The thing wearing Oliver's face was smiling at me. Its mouth stretched too wide, eyes black and wet. I ran into the hallway. The attic door stood open. Inside was total darkness. Hands reached out from inside the doorway and grabbed my shirt. I tore free and threw myself down the stairs. I hit hard but kept moving. Front door was chained from the inside now. I don't know how. I fumbled with it while footsteps rushed overhead. Then another voice behind me said, "Use the deadbolt first." It was Claire. Real Claire. Covered in dirt, bleeding from the forehead. She had come through the back door. She unlocked everything and shoved me outside. "Run to the car." I asked about David. She just stared at the house. He opened the attic room. We drove straight to police. When officers returned with us, the house was empty. No Oliver, no David, no attic room. Where the door had been was a plain hallway wall. Police found signs Claire had not lived there in months. Utilities nearly shut off. No evidence of a child, no photos, no toys except the room I had seen, now completely bare. Claire disappeared the next day before police could question her further. The house was sold 6 months later. New owners renovated everything. I never went near Willow Lane again. Last year, I got a letter with no return address. Inside was the old brass key and a note written in a child's handwriting. We're hungry again. Story 2. The baby crying in the basement. My name is Connor. When I was 20, I took a babysitting job that should have been easy money. It was one child, one evening, 4 hours. Nothing complicated. I only accepted because the pay was ridiculous. $250 cash for a Saturday night. I had never babysat professionally before. I was a college student delivering pizzas at the time, but the family said they found me through a mutual friend. That made it feel safe enough. The parents were named Melissa and Aaron. They lived in an older neighborhood about 30 minutes outside town. Large houses, big lots, quiet streets lined with trees. Their place stood at the corner of a dead-end road. 2-story brick house with a detached garage. Nice, but strangely dark. No porch light on when I arrived. I almost thought I had the wrong address. Then the front door opened before I knocked. Melissa greeted me in a rush. She looked stressed. Hair half done. Still putting on earrings. Aaron stood behind her, tightening a tie. Both seemed distracted, like they were already late. They invited me in quickly. The house smelled like fresh paint and old wood. Some rooms looked renovated. Others looked untouched for decades. Melissa introduced me to their daughter, Emma. She was 3 years old, tiny, blonde hair, holding a stuffed rabbit. She barely looked at me, just kept staring toward the hallway. Melissa explained the basics. Emma's bedtime was 8:30, snack already prepared. TV allowed until then. Emergency contacts on the fridge. Then Aaron added one strange instruction. If you hear noises downstairs, ignore them. I laughed, expecting a joke. Neither of them smiled. Melissa quickly jumped in. The pipes are old. Basement gets noisy. Aaron nodded but looked embarrassed. They grabbed coats and headed out. Before leaving, Melissa knelt in front of Emma. Stay upstairs tonight, okay? Emma whispered. What if the baby cries? Melissa froze for half a second, then kissed her forehead and stood up. Then Connor will handle it. They left immediately after that. The house felt different the second the door shut. Still, heavy, like the walls were listening. I tried to ignore the weird vibe and focused on Emma. She sat on the couch beside me, watching cartoons. Didn't speak much. Every few minutes she glanced toward the hallway leading to the basement door. At 7:10 p.m., I heard it for the first time. A baby, crying. Faint. Somewhere below us. It sounded distant but clear enough that I muted the TV. Emma slowly looked at me. There, she said. The crying stopped. I told her it was probably pipes like her dad said. She shook her head. Pipes don't say mama. I didn't respond, because I had heard it too. Mixed in with the crying was a weak little voice. I told myself I imagined that part. At 7:20, the sound came again. Louder this time. Definitely from the basement. long, desperate wailing. Then 2 knocks under the floor. Emma climbed onto the couch beside me and covered her ears. I asked if they had a younger sibling. She stared at me like I was stupid. No. I walked to the basement door. Old wooden door at the end of the hallway. Paint chipped around the frame. Deadbolt on the outside. That part bothered me immediately. Why would a basement door need an exterior deadbolt? I unlocked it and opened the door. Cold air rose from below. Concrete steps descending into darkness. Single pull chain light at the bottom. The crying had stopped again. I called down hello. Nothing answered. I went down slowly. The basement was unfinished. Concrete floor, low ceiling, laundry machines, shelves of storage bins, old freezer in the corner. No windows except tiny ground-level ones. No baby, no source of sound. I checked every corner. Nothing. Then I noticed a second room beyond the furnace. Small wooden door partly open. Inside was an empty nursery, yellow walls, crib, rocking chair. Dust everywhere, like it hadn't been touched in years. The mobile above the crib began spinning on its own. I stood there frozen. No fan, no breeze, just that slow-turning mobile. Then from directly behind me, a baby cried once, loud, right next to my ear. I spun around so hard I hit the wall. No one there. I ran upstairs immediately. Emma was exactly where I left her. She looked annoyed more than scared. "You shouldn't go in her room," she said. I asked whose room. "The basement baby." I told her not to say stuff like that. My voice came out shakier than I wanted. I texted Melissa asking if there was some monitor making noise. No reply. I called. Straight to voicemail. Aaron too. Nothing. At 8 p.m. I put Emma to bed early. She didn't argue. She just asked if I would keep her door closed. I promised I would. Then she added, "If she sounds like me, don't open it." I asked what she meant, but she had already rolled over. I stayed downstairs with every light on, TV volume low, phone in hand. At 8:17, I heard tiny footsteps overhead. Emma's room was directly above the living room. I called up asking if she was okay. No answer. The footsteps continued, back and forth. Too fast for a 3-year-old. Then they stopped. Then came the baby, crying again, this time upstairs, from Emma's room. I ran up immediately and opened her door. Emma was asleep in bed. No baby, no movement, no sound. Then the crying started downstairs in the basement again. Same exact second. Like something had moved past me. I backed out of Emma's room and shut the door. My chest was pounding now. I called Melissa 3 more times. No answer. At 8:40, someone knocked on the front door. 3 slow knocks. I looked through the peephole. A woman stood on the porch holding a blanket bundle in her arms. I couldn't see her face clearly. She was looking down at whatever she carried. Then she softly called, "I'm here for my baby." I didn't move. She knocked again, harder. I know you hear her crying. I stepped back from the door. My phone had no service now, 0 bars. I don't know when that happened. The woman remained outside another minute, then walked away into darkness. I never heard a car start. At 9 p.m., the basement door opened by itself. I know how that sounds. But I watched the knob turn. Then the door slowly swung inward. Cold air spilled into the hallway. The crying began again. Louder than ever, Emma screamed upstairs. I ran to her room. She was sitting upright sobbing. "She wants me back." I grabbed her and carried her downstairs. I didn't care about rules anymore. We were leaving. I unlocked the front door, wouldn't open. Something heavy blocked it from outside. I pulled harder. Nothing. Then from the kitchen came the sound of a rocking chair creaking. Back and forth. Back and forth. There was no rocking chair in the kitchen. I turned the corner slowly. The chair from the basement nursery now sat beside the table, moving on its own. Emma buried her face in my shoulder. I grabbed a fireplace poker and headed for the back door, locked with a key I couldn't find. The crying moved into the hallway behind us, not from one place, from all around. Walls, ceiling, under the floor. Then it stopped. Silence. Emma whispered, "Don't let her see me." At the end of the hallway stood a little girl, about Emma's size, wearing an old white nightgown, wet hair hanging over her face. She held the stuffed rabbit Emma had gone to bed with. I know for a fact it had been upstairs. The girl slowly lifted her head. Her face looked almost identical to Emma's, except pale gray, eyes black, mouth too wide. She smiled and said in Emma's voice, "Daddy said you'd bring me back." Emma started screaming in my arms. I swung the poker and the girl vanished. Not moved. Vanished. The basement door slammed shut so hard the frame cracked. Then every light in the house went out. Complete darkness. I ran blindly toward the back of the house with Emma. I smashed the kitchen window with the poker. Glass everywhere. Shoved Emma through first, then climbed out after her. We ran across the yard barefoot and bleeding to the neighbor's house. An older couple let us in and called police. When officers entered the home, they found it empty. No signs of forced entry, no woman outside, no nursery in the basement. Just storage shelves where I swore the room had been. Melissa and Aaron returned an hour later, furious and confused. They claimed they had been at dinner the whole time, phones on silent. They denied ever mentioning noises downstairs, denied any nursery ever existing, denied Emma had ever had a sibling. Then Emma said something I'll never forget. Standing in front of everyone, she pointed at her parents and said, "You told me she drowned." Both of them went completely pale. Police dug deeper after that. Turns out they had another daughter years earlier, twin to Emma. She died in a basement flooding accident when they were toddlers. Case ruled accidental. House sold and bought back later under Aaron's company name. They never told anyone, never disclosed it. I never babysat again. 6 months later, I received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a photo taken from the top of the basement stairs. Me holding Emma in the kitchen that night. And behind us, standing in the hallway, was the other girl smiling.